How's it going, everybody? Been a while. I'm glad this was a bit of a surprise for you. It was a surprise for me, too. It's like, oh shit, it's kind of late in the day. I don't really want to film a full video right now, but I'm down to do a stream. And we can talk about a movie that somehow none of us have gotten to talk about yet. I think I might have mentioned my thoughts on it during the last episode of Loki or something, but I don't even remember if I did. And I'm doing good. How are you? How's everyone? I missed y'all. So Black Widow. I guess I'll start the review off by saying I thought it was okay. Not my least favorite Marvel movie, not my favorite Marvel movie. I don't think it was a bad movie, but I also don't think it was a good one. I don't know. It was so middle of the road in so many different ways. And I also kept thinking while I was watching it, I'm like, I think this would have been a better movie if this came out right after Civil War. I don't know. It would have been a good opportunity and time to explore Natasha's character and set up Yelena to take on the Black Widow mantle, later down the line, rather than introduce her right when you need to pass the mantle. I'm not super against it, but I don't know. I just feel like the timing of this movie is off. Just switching the release date to a measly 5 years earlier, I think would have done this movie a lot of good. Especially because Marvel's kind of been killing it ever since Civil War. And they've sort of set most people's expectations pretty high in terms of what their movies are going to be when they come out. But it's I feel like this just didn't really quite live up to that. In some ways I did think it was good. Like I said, I thought it was an okay movie, not a bad one. I did kind of ghost y'all. I'm sorry. The movie came out when Natasha was alive. Yeah, I mean, that alone would have at least sort of given you the idea of some tension. Like, ooh, maybe Natasha's not going to make it out of this. Which obviously they wouldn't do in her own, like, standalone movie. But still, knowing, like, oh, well, you're going to die later. So I know you're not going to die right here. That being said, the action in this movie, I've seen some people say the action was lackluster. I actually found the action scenes to be very good. Maybe not as, I don't know, extravagant as some Marvel fight scenes, with the exception of the falling through the sky and the debris bit, which it seems unanimously everyone is kind of like, yeah, that was probably the weakest part of the movie. Thank you, Justin. Supposed to be the first one before everything else. Yeah, it was supposed to kick off Phase 4 before Falcon and the Winter Soldier even came out. Because I guess the end credit scene in this was supposed to be the end credit scene or a scene in Falcon and the Winter Soldier with Yelena. Which is interesting. I enjoyed that end credit scene. It definitely got me excited for the Hawkeye show, for, you know, whatever they're doing with the Thunderbolts. And for Yelena, because she was hands down best character in Black Widow, like hands down. I will say, Scarlett Johansson did a good job as Natasha, though. I did really like her character, too. Really any stakes for anyone since Natasha already died, and we kind of knew. And then it wasn't going to get taken out in her first movie. You see, I mildly disagree with you there, because throughout the movie, I had kind of the opposite mentality, I guess. Like, I figured, okay, well, Natasha obviously doesn't die, so that means one of her family has to, right? Like, there has to be some kind of loss in this movie to kind of propel Natasha forward. So I was kind of worried for Yelena throughout the movie. But it turns out I didn't need to be, because no one died. Would have liked this in the actual time. No, yeah, I think 100% this movie should have been... I don't think the first movie after Civil War, because the first one after that was Doctor Strange, and I think that was a good switch up. But I think this probably should have come out right after Doctor Strange. Like, they should have just gotten to it, but they waited way too long. And then they killed the character, and they were like, well, shit. How do we do a movie and please the fans if we killed her already? And the answer was to do a flashback story. And they didn't even choose the best like flashback option. Like, if you're going to do a flashback movie, you might as well go back to the Budapest thing. Like, they talk about it a lot in this movie, but you never actually see it, and that also feels like kind of a cheat. I think that would have been a better Black Widow movie, to see, you know, her and Clint getting her out of the Red Room. That would have been cool. But that wouldn't have been a good way to set up Yelena, so that's not what they did. Here we are now, entertain us. I'm gonna fast forward so I don't get like copyrighted. I probably already did, just from that little bit. Wanted more Melina and Alexei. I did not. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy their characters that much. I usually really like Rachel Weisz, but I don't know. She didn't really do anything for me in this movie. She was kind of a confusing character, because on one hand she seemed really sweet and motherly, but on the other hand she was like, oh yeah, no, I don't really give a shit about you or these pigs or whatever. Like, I don't know. Her character didn't really pull me in. And Alexei honestly just got annoying to me. Like, comic relief is cool and all, but he never did anything cool. Like, Yelena was great comic relief, but she did cool shit all the time. And then Alexei just was dumb. Like, I don't know. I did not like their characters that much. Didn't hate them, but I have no real desire to see them again. How many times have I watched it? 3? Probably 3 times. I mean, obviously the movie's good enough for me to watch it more than just my, 2-time rule, so that's good. But that's also because it's Marvel, and I don't know, I like superhero shit. Sometimes I like to just turn on a movie, fast forward to the fight scene, and just like kick back and watch a cool fight scene. Is that childish? Maybe. But it makes me happy, so I don't care. It's a very expensive movie to set up Yelena. Yeah, I mean, they probably... Well, actually, I don't know. The shows... I don't know if the shows are cheaper to make than the movies, or more expensive, or the same, or what the deal with that is, but... I mean, I don't know. It's a good setup for Yelena. It's just the movie's... it's supposed to be about Natasha, and it is, but... If anything... You could argue the main character is Yelena, but you could also argue it's Natasha. A bit of wasted potential with Melina, like her being an older widow. She could have definitely had more of a part in the movie. Yeah, I was kind of surprised with how little we got from her. Actually, we definitely get more with Alexei, which I'm not a fan of. Yeah, they could have. I mean, her character Iron Maiden. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say. She's really fucked up in the comic books, and I don't know, she's a really interesting character that they pretty much wasted. Like, it's clear they did not draw from the comic book in terms of inspiration for her character, and I think that's definitely a waste, because what they did with her instead didn't really do it for me. I seem to remember that she did it because Hawkeye has a family and she doesn't, but then we learned she does. I did not even really think about that, actually. I mean, I don't think it takes away from the decision, just because ultimately she did it to save the universe, and she's like, you know what? If killing myself is what I have to do to save everybody, whatever it takes, I'm going to do it. And I don't think her having Yelena and a family really changes that, but still, that is a good point. Yelena will be welcome. Yes, she will be very welcome. I mean, I love Florence Pugh. I think the first movie I actually watched her in was Midsommar, which is a cool introduction to her as an actor. But she's really good. She's just really good. I don't know. She has a very likable quality. It reminds me of when Jennifer Lawrence was first starting out as Katniss in the Hunger Games franchise, just how everyone adored her because she's just so likable and she's like one of us, and that quickly went away, but those are the vibes I get from Florence Pugh. Not that it'll go away, just that she's so likable and everyone, wants to be her friend. Who are Lewis and Jimmy? The names ring a bell, but I can't remember off the top of my head which side characters those are. Jimmy Woo and who's Lewis? Oh, Louise? I have a feeling you're talking about Ant-Man. I'm not 100% though. I haven't watched all the Marvel movies in a minute, even though I literally said I was going to maybe like a week ago. They let Melina off the hook at the end. She helped invent. They did just let her off the hook for that. They're like, oh, well, you can just come along with us. I'm like, she's kind of the one who did this to you. And she doesn't seem to care that much. I don't know. Hawkeye was also willing to die and leave his family. Yeah, that's true. Pew, pew, pew. I do love that Grace from Beyond the Trailer always goes pew 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 whenever she's talking about Florence Pugh. It's catchy. Oh, you spelled his name. Okay, so it was Louise. Okay. Oh, and you thought Darcy Lewis. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, I don't know. Aspects I really liked about the movie, like I said, I thought the fight scenes were actually pretty damn good, with the exception of the CGI falling through the debris thing. I honestly, I wouldn't mind a big CGI finale. I know everyone says that really bothers them. It doesn't really bother me as long as it looks good. Like, does it make sense in the context of the story? Are the characters acting in character? And do the special effects look good? If you have those qualities, then I'm fine with the CGI, big climactic finale. But the problem was the CGI looked like shit. Like, there were maybe a couple shots that looked pretty good, but those were the shots that were used for the trailer, and clearly they did that on purpose. They were like, this shot doesn't look the best, let's use this one. Or they just specifically worked harder on a couple shots so they could use them in the trailer. Either way, it was a problem. There's a lot of CGI moments during those final moments, and kind of throughout the movie there were several other wonky CGI looking things. And I mean, aside from Black Panther, that's not really a problem in Marvel movies anymore, and it was really distracting. But I realized I started that by wanting to say what I liked about the movie. The fight scenes were good. The characters, Natasha and Yelena, fantastic. I loved Yelena. I like how she's a slightly darker person than Natasha is. I mean, technically you could argue she isn't, for something I'll talk about in a minute, but you can tell she's a little more comfortable with being an assassin. She's like, oh no, yeah, like, we kill people, that's who we are. And I like that. And apparently her working with, Allegra, I can never remember her full name, I'm sorry. That's a cool, like, development with the character, I think. She's not an Avenger. She's, potentially a Thunderbolt. She's just very refreshing, I guess, in terms of the heroes that we get in the MCU. I liked Natasha because she was very compassionate, had some pretty cool moments to be a badass. Actually, some pretty solid comedy from her as well. Like, the comedy in this movie actually did really work for me. There were a lot of comedic moments that I thought were really good. What else? Oh, I did talk about this in one of my other live streams. Now I remember, because I was specifically talking about this moment. I'm sure a lot of people thought it was kind of silly and dumb that she, like, breaks her nose to sever the nerve and get past the pheromone black. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a badass moment. I really liked it. It was good timing. It was, I don't know, it was like good editing, good acting. I enjoyed it. I think you weren't able to do it, so I guess I'll have to do it for you. What are you talking about? Bow! Sever the nerve. Boom! I don't know. I just thought it was cool. It was good. It was good. I'm not sorry. It really did feel like they used this movie to have Yelena become the next Black Widow. No, yeah, 100%. And I mean, on one hand, that's disappointing. On the other, it's not, because Yelena is really cool. But I think this movie should have been more a send-off for Natasha rather than a welcome wagon for Yelena. Most of the fight scenes are pretty good, but the fight between Natasha and Yelena was so funny. That was weirdly kind of funny, but only in just how really, like, brutal they get with each other. Like, I remember seeing, bits of that in the trailer, thinking like, oh, that'll be kind of a fun fight scene. But it was like they really go at it. It was entertaining in that regard. And not gonna lie, that had some of the better choreography in that fight scene than throughout the movie. That is definitely one of the better fight scenes. I think it was a good introduction to the two characters. I'm actually on that scene right now, and I'm very excited to watch them try to kill each other. I don't think we would critique this movie too bad if it came out before Endgame. I would still have some issues with it. My biggest issue, which I see some reviewers have similar thoughts and some, don't really seem to mind it, for me is the mind control. I really don't like that decision. It makes the Black Widows much less interesting. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Like, Yelena, you could argue is a darker person because she's, been working for Allegra and seems to want to actively go after and kill Hawkeye, in the end credit scene anyways. But at the same time, all the really horrific things she did as a Black Widow, she had literally no control over. She was just being mind controlled, which, I don't know, makes it way less interesting. It's like, oh, well, I can't blame you for it then. Like, I think it was done better with Bucky, because his mind control wasn't as simple as like, oh, spray these nanites on your face and then you're done, you're good. His was such a long, complicated process that did kind of blend or blur the line of, does he know what he's doing or does he not? Like, his was much, much better. This whole version of the mind control thing does not work for me. And it would not have worked for me even if this came out right after Civil War. And I like that Yelena gets to have a sense of humor too. She, like, a darker character can be funny. We got, Deadpool, and I mean, Batman has his moments where he's actually pretty funny. I like that Natasha has always been smart in addition to a good fighter, and that Seven the Nerd moment was a good example of that. I agree. And I love that callback where she's like, thank you for your cooperation. That actually really worked for me. That brought me right back to the first Avengers movie. I really enjoyed it. And it kind of actually tricked me a little bit when she was just like, thanks for your cooperation. I was like, oh shit, she was fucking with you. Like, that worked. I liked it. They used Natasha as a doormat for Yelena. I don't think it was that bad, but they definitely didn't give her the focus they needed to. And yes, Rogue, sorry, this is a major spoiler conversation. And I missed you too. Mind control was just new after Nat left. I mean, that's true, but that still means that Yelena was mind controlled for 10, 12 years. It's a lot of time where she could have been making very questionable decisions, like Natasha killing Dreykov's daughter, but she wasn't. She wasn't making any decisions, so I don't know. It was a bad decision, I think. I completely agree. The mind control takes away the depth of the widows and a lot of their character. The whole point of the widows is for them to be trained assassins who are in a sort of morally gray area, but on their free will, but of their free will. Sort of. Like, manipulation is different than free will, but, like, yeah, it's still them thinking like, oh, well, it's you or me, rather than just being like a literal robot. The robot angle of it doesn't work for me. Stepladder, not doormat. Kind of true. What else is there to discuss about the movie? The obvious one that a lot of people really dislike, and I do too. I want to be one of those people who's like, no, I like the change. I don't like the change they made with Taskmaster. I think they should have just made her a completely different character. like Dreykov's daughter, who, don't get mad at me, I don't remember her name. Shit, I really can't remember. Someone help me out if you do. But I don't know, make her like any other Marvel villain that fits that background just a little bit better. I know they like to switch it up and, you know, pull a fast one on you, but I don't know, the character was just weak overall. Like, she was barely in the movie, and it just felt like an easy, like, ooh, got you. Everyone knows that Taskmaster's a guy, but it's actually his daughter. I was like Antonia Dreykov, that's right, because it's a play on Tony Masters. I don't know, I didn't like it. I didn't think it was a super solid decision. It's not something that like pisses me off. I'm not like, oh, they fucked up like my favorite villain, but it still doesn't really work for me. I did think it was kind of a sweet moment though at the end when Natasha frees her, and then they like put foreheads together, and she asks her, you know, is he gone? She's like, yeah, he's gone, and she's just apologizing. It was a sweet moment. Like, if anything, it was more a decent moment for Natasha. Didn't really do anything for me in terms of Taskmaster, Antonia. The story arc was good, but she could have been any other character. Yeah, I mean, like, I liked the idea of, like, oh, Natasha, you know, she made a pretty morally great choice to kill this innocent little girl so that she could be free, and that was, like, the only way she could do it. Again, which makes it's so much more interesting when it's like, oh, both options are really bad, but you gotta pick one, as opposed to, I have no choice, this is my one option, I'm being controlled by him. But yeah, they could have just made her character not Taskmaster. Just make it someone else. That could have been a cool flip on Iron Maiden. Like, instead of Iron Maiden having her backstory, this is her origin story, that, you know, she's Dreykov's daughter that was, you know, permanently scarred for life by Natasha. That would have been cool. I would have been so down for that. Taskmaster, just give me the actual Taskmaster at that point. I like Taskmaster in the comics and in, you know, games and other iterations of him, because he's just a dude who wants money. He's like, I just get the job done. That's all I am. That's all I need to be. And I agree, that is all he needs to be. He's a simple villain that's fun to show up every now and then, but nothing more than that. Could have been loads of other assassins Antonia could have been, and don't change the plot of the movie. Exactly. Isn't Kang your fave villain? No. Now, Jonathan Majors. Do love me that, but no, Kang has definitely never been like a favorite villain of mine. Thought it was fine, but I never heard of the character. One criticism that I agree with is that Natasha should have had to fight all the other Avengers in Taskmaster, and they don't ever yeah, I mean, that's a big missed opportunity. Like, they have a moment where Taskmaster fights like her, and you're like, oh, cool, this is cool. And then there's a moment later in the movie when she is fighting Alexei, and she's fighting kind of like Captain America and Black Panther, but I mean, other than that, you don't really see the mimic ability, and that's honestly a shame, because it's a cool power. I mean, it presents a cool idea for some interesting fight scenes and cool choreography, but they didn't do it. Yeah, it would have been cool for her to be like, all right, now you got to fight now you gotta fight Captain America. Switch. Now you gotta fight Spider-Man. Now it's switched, and you gotta fight, I don't know, Iron Man. Whatever, you know? I think we're good. Sorry. Oh, wouldn't be one of my streams if didn't completely lose signal for a moment, would it? Anyways, they didn't use Taskmaster to the fullest of her abilities, and they should have just made Antonia a different character anyways. Moving on. Oh, and thank you, David. I'm so sorry. I totally skimmed over that. I really appreciate the donation. They did the mimic thing, just not that successful on screen, maybe on paper. I mean, the video game, the Avengers video game, literally just came out, and it showcases a way for you to utilize Taskmaster. And not even like one of those moments, except for when they're falling through the debris, really replicated any of that. Like, come on. That should have been, I don't know, that should have been a cakewalk for him. Oh, hey, Sean. Thank you for popping in. I'm trying to think what else did or didn't really work for me. Well, I'm like really racking my brains here. Hey, Dreff. Oh, I 100% loved Yelena making fun of Natasha for posing during all the fights. That was prime. I feel like that's a joke that some people might be like, oh, it was so quippy, it was so Marvel. I'm like, yes, it was, and that's why it was so good. Hey, Zakia. Oh, it is good to see everybody again. But yeah, I love that they made fun of Natasha posing all the time, and then Yelena had her moment where she did the pose, and she's like, ugh. No, that's what's disgusting. Like, that was really funny. I liked it. And I do think Florence Pugh and, I almost called her Natasha Romanoff, Scarlett Johansson, genuinely do some very quality performances in this movie. Genuinely moving stuff, especially when Yelena is telling everyone that, you know, those 3 years undercover weren't fake to her. It was all real. That was a great scene. Really liked it. But there is this one moment in the movie where I feel like both Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson are just terrible. Like, they are really awful for these, like, 3 lines. And I don't understand. I really don't understand. It's the moment right before Yelena kills Dreykov. And, you know, she looks over and she's like, this was fun. And I was like, okay, that wasn't like the best delivery, but that wasn't terrible. And Scarlett Johansson literally says, no, don't do it. And not only is that dialogue horribly cheesy, but she delivered it not well. And then, oh, that's right. And then she says, like, this was fun. And I was like, that was a little awkward. And then Scarlett Johansson again is like, no. And I'm like, what is this? What is this? Like, it just comes out of nowhere for me. Their acting throughout the entire movie is so good. And then that one little moment happens. And I'm like, what? Did they only film that in like one take and they didn't manage to get a good one? Did they intentionally pick the worst one out of the bunch? Were they having an off day? I don't understand. That particular line, I think, is very not good. I did like the vest, and I thought it was funny that they brought up how she got it, because to me that was pretty unimportant. But I like how they were like, "Oh no, this is a very minor subplot," and I was like, "Oh, it's cute. I like it." Has so many pockets. You can put so much stuff in there you don't even know. It's good. I'm kind of mad they memed the "don't say that it was real" to me. Oh, did they meme that on TikTok? I didn't even see. The same level as Wanda is immune. It's just a reference, but not a confirmation. Oh. Oh, nice, Akia. Like, I believe that was their first day. I really do. Because that, like I said, they're great through the whole movie. There's not a single line other than those 3 lines that are just so good. They perform their characters well. They're funny. They're likable. They're badass. They're, whatever they need to be. And then in that particular moment, it's so not good. Like, I encourage anyone who bought it on Disney Plus, like, pull it up real quick. Just go to that exact moment and tell me if I'm wrong, because it's so bad. Like, I really don't like that. No, don't do it. So bad. Wait, what was the reference? Oh. Have you guys heard about Ursa Major being introduced in the arm wrestling scene? Oh, really? Is that, like, confirmed, or is that just a rumor? If that's just a rumor, I 100% say that's probably just bullshit, but if, like, Kevin Feige came out and said, like, oh yeah, that was them, then maybe that is the first low-key mutant introduction. I'm not doing that Black Widow pose. I think it was like he's a mutant that turns into a bear in the comics. I have no idea why anyone would be interested in that. By the way, briefly, I would like to say I also saw A Quiet Place 2. I also thought it was just kind of, it was okay. Definitely not even close to as good as the first one, and that majorly disappointed me. But this is a Black Widow review. What's up, Black and Conscious? I missed ya. The guy who played the big guy in the arm wrestling scene made a post on Twitter and was like, I'm honored to play this character, and said him by name, so I guess it's real. I don't know. But I will say, as soon as I saw him, I was like, holy fuck, that dude is enormous. Because David Harbour is not a small dude. Like, he's, I think, like 6'2", 6'3" or something. And then that dude just walks in. He had to have been like over 7 feet tall. Like, that was kind of ridiculous. Like, how have they not gotten this guy to play a villain yet? I doubt he's a good enough actor to be like a main hero, but if you have a person who's literally that big, then you might as well use them to play the characters from comic books that you normally can't have played by anybody. Because no one is like 7+ feet tall. I think it was a name drop that could be used in the future if they want. I mean, I would highly doubt them using that as the introduction to like a random character. I could be wrong. I will say that moment was weirdly kind of graphic for me too. Like, obviously it's not graphic, but when he breaks his arm, I was kind of like, oh shit. And then he like lifts his arm up and it's just like dangling. I was like, oh fuck. I actually did like that moment just because it surprised me. I do love how much Scarlett is supportive of Florence being introduced in the MCU. Oh, that is really sweet, actually. Kind of was hoping they'd do a Winter Guard cameo in the end credits, but I guess I'm fine with the Elena one. I mean, you could still do the Winter Guard at some point. Jeff, I already talked about Taskmaster. It's a change that I want to be on board with and support, but I don't. I don't think Taskmaster was done well. I think they should have just changed it to a different character, not tried to play around with like, oh, let's surprise the audience with this big change. And it's not even really the change that bothers me. Like, I could get behind the change, but I don't know. The character itself was very, like, there was really nothing to it. Or I guess there was a lot to it, but they didn't really spend the time to explore it. I don't care about the MCU until Multiverse of Madness dropped. I mean, Loki, though. I can't believe Loki's the show that starts the multiverse. I never would have thought that going into all the Disney Plus shows. And it actually works really well. For the longest time, I kept thinking, too, I'm like, so are we just not doing the multiverse? Were they just fucking with us? Because I don't see how they're setting up for it at all. And then there's Loki. Well, that's your own damn fault, Black and Conscious. You should have been more on it. Even my roommate, who is slower than anyone I have ever seen, has finished Loki. Loki underestimated until the end. That's actually really true. It's a theme of the show, and it's actually a theme of the show. You know? Epic rap battles of history? Yes, I have. I have. I'll continue to underestimate him. I mean, I will admit, one thing that show did not prove to me was that Loki was badass. He had his moments, but overall, I didn't come out of it thinking like, oh, hell yeah, he's fucking cool. And I will say I did think that about our new Captain America and Wanda at the end of their shows. I was like, damn, they're even cooler than I thought. Loki, I was like, I like you way more than I thought. You are not cooler than I thought, though. I mean, I personally don't find it like inspiring that Tom's willing to play Loki forever. It's definitely dedication, and it's good to know that he really cares about the character. But I don't know. I wouldn't like hold it against any actor for wanting to stop at a certain point. You know, at the end of the day, it's a job for them, and sometimes you just need something new. In my depression era, because I got canceled a few weeks ago. I'm a little bit in my depression era too, but not for any particular reason. Sorry about that, though. The shirt is tight. I guess it's kind of tight. Twilight is so bad, but I can't stop watching it. I've been trying to convince my roommate to watch it. I'm like, come on, let's do it. Like, no, I don't want to. Like, come on. You know, like he was going to be the key to the multiverse, but I can't say the reason why. Well, I'm glad you knew. And my twinkness wearing off is a very nice way of saying you're gaining weight, but thank you. What else about Black Widow did I like or dislike? I don't know, that's kind of the problem. There's not like a whole lot to talk about with the movie. Oh, I liked the intro with the cover with all the girls getting like picked up in the container. That felt like a pretty real moment. Glossed over maybe a little too much, but I thought it was I don't know, I thought it was good. It's a decent intro. It was one of those moments where while I was listening to the cover, I was like, I don't hate it. It's definitely a song that some people, you know, hold very close to them and probably wouldn't want to hear a cover for, but I thought it was decent. Oh, this is another wonky VFX moment. When Black Widow's like swinging from the helicopter, and she like grabs Alexei, and they take off, just before the avalanche gets them. There's a particular shot where it gets kind of close to the both of them, and she's like swinging up, and it just shows her kind of like swinging towards him. But it's obviously not in slow motion, but she's moving like so slowly. I don't know why. It looks really bad. It was not good. I'm sorry, but at this point, the special effects in a Marvel movie, they need to be on point. They got plenty of money. They got plenty of time. Well, I guess that's a little debatable, but they got plenty of money. They have all the resources in the world. There should be no reason your special effects, in some cases, look worse than your shows. No reason for that. Didn't mean it like that, more like your age. Yeah, okay. In both cases, my feelings are hurt. In the end, it was a median movie, which was sad. I wanted more. Yeah, that's kind of how I mean, I'm glad it wasn't bad. I would have been very upset if it was another Thor: The Dark World, but yeah, I wish it was really good. Because at this point, if I had to pick, like, do you want to watch Captain Marvel or Black Widow? I would pick Captain Marvel. And considering Black Widow's been around since the very, very beginning, that does disappoint me. That kind of made it sound like I don't like the Captain Marvel movie. I do, but that's another one I view a little more middle of the road. I'm like, it's not bad, it's not great, but I do think it was better than what's it called? Black Widow. What did you think of the guy helping Natasha? I mean, it was just kind of a character to give them things when they needed it. Wasn't really a good character or anything. I recognize him from looking, and I did not know he was British. He very convincingly changed like everything about himself for that show looking, actually. Which makes me sad. I thought that everyone on that show was actually gay, and now I don't think they are. But yeah, he was an alright character. Had like, I think 2 or 3 lines where I was like, "Ha, that was funny." That's about it. It's their point for raising the bar. They shouldn't keep their own standards. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I mean, the MCU is gonna fall. One day, somehow, some way. Because everything does. If they're lucky, they will put a close to everything, end it how they want it to, and have the MCU fall in a graceful way. And if they're not, well, we'll see. One thing that no one can take away anymore is that the Infinity Saga was genuinely a part of history. And they nailed it. So you can't take that win away, even if they fuck it up now. The guy was a comic book character, the Agent. I don't even know who that is, so can't be that important of a character. I would rewatch it. Yeah, I mean, I have rewatched it. I've watched it 3 times. I don't think it's a bad movie. But overall, being fair, I would give the movie a 6 out of 10. Cinematography in it was good. I actually really liked most of the shots. Visual effects were horrible in certain moments and very good in other moments. Music in the movie was actually really good. There were quite a few parts of the score I was like really grooving to. When were you supposed to cry in the movie? Why did I see a lot of posts about people crying? I did not feel anything. Yeah, I definitely never got close to crying in the movie. I did say "aw" about 20 times though when Yelena was talking about how it was real to me. Like that was a great scene. In my opinion, the most emotional of the movie. Was it better on the theater? You mean like in the theater? Oh, did you watch it at home or in the theater? I watched it in the theater, and then I watched it twice at home. Better in theaters, for sure. I mean, it's a movie theater. Like, movie theaters do need to kind of catch up with the times, but I don't know. It's really fun going to the movies. Get a giant screen, best sound system you can get. The people kind of suck sometimes, but hey, what are you going to do about that? Stay at home, which is what a lot of people are doing. What's your favorite movie from the MCU so far? Favorite. Probably Black Panther, which I know some people would be like, are you crazy? But I thought it was a really, really good movie that also suffered from very poor visual effects, though. But yeah, probably Black Panther. Well, I don't know. There's a couple. My top MCU movies are all very, very close to each other just because it's, I don't know. The really good Marvel movies are really fucking good. Like, I genuinely consider them to be very quality movies. Not the Black Widow slander. I mean, the movie's just okay. I don't know what to say. It's just okay. But yeah, being fair, I should give it a 6 out of 10. Being a Marvel fan and enjoying it, I give it a 7 out of 10. It's worth watching, but it's not worth, getting hyped up about. It's not worth going out of your way to watch it. Watch it when you watch it. It's about how good the movie is. I think it was better than Wonder Woman 1984, but not by like a whole lot. Which also might surprise people because I know a lot of people really hated that movie, but I thought that was also like a 6 or a 7 out of 10 for me. I was like, it's all right. It was okay. Where is Scooby, actually? I haven't seen him in a minute. The Infinity Saga was just like Star Wars, overhyped for the social rejects that don't got nothing to do but sink themselves in a different reality to escape their own trash lives. That's literally all fiction. What are you talking about? Unfortunately, most people that play gay characters aren't gay themselves. But why? Why do that to me? Right. Who do you think had the best character arc? Are you talking about the MCU or Black Widow? For Black Widow, the best character arc was I mean, the best character arc would be Natasha, like her learning to accept this second family of hers and admit that all of it really did mean something to her. Like, it was a decent character arc. For the MCU as a whole, he's absolutely not my favorite character in the MCU, but I think Tony Stark definitely has the best character arc. Feels the most complete, feels the most intentional and well written. Truly don't trust people who don't say Black Panther isn't their favorite. Everything about that movie was just a 10. I mean, like I said, everything but the special effects for me, I would agree, was a 10. But there were some moments where the special effects that just did not look good, and that did hurt it a little bit for me. But overall, I still think it's probably my favorite one. Endgame is really good, though. I don't know. I already talked about the Snyder Cut. I have a live stream. I did that like months ago. But yeah, I already talked about it. I liked it. I was surprised that I liked it because I was determined to not like that. The Twilight Saga, the Infinity Saga. Don't even. Speaking about gay characters, did you guys know Jonathan Majors played a gay character? I was floored when I saw that scene of him on Twitter. I did not. I'm sure I'll see that scene eventually if it's floating around on Twitter, though. I feel like Iron Man 2 was a waste, like Thor 2. I mean, Iron Man 2 introduced Black Widow, so it wasn't a total waste. What am I being biased to? Twilight? I already said I like Twilight. And not because it's good, but because I enjoy it. It's a guilty pleasure. Did they just recently put it on Netflix too? Because I see so many people like watching it and talking about it here lately. Maybe people just all decided at once, like, oh yeah, those movies exist, and I actually kind of liked watching them. Oh yeah, I forgot I'm a vampire too. Wasn't anything too graphic. Just seeing him with another guy gave me just a smidge of hope. He's not gay. Does anyone recall me saying I would want to be a wolf and that I like the wolves better than vampires? I probably did say that. I don't know why. Who cares? I feel like everyone has a preference. Like, are you a werewolf person or a vampire person? Oh, thank you. I think it looks very bad today. I've been like trying to fix it, and it's just not doing what I want it to do. But I'm glad you think it looks good. Twilight is the rare instant the movies are better than the books. There's actually parts of the books I thought were really good, and parts that were really, really weird, like in an uncomfortable, I don't want to read this kind of way. I don't know. Twilight's just fun to make fun of. Like, it's just fun to watch how fucking ridiculous it is. What do you mean slick my edges? I don't even know what that means. Literally, where the fuck are we in this? Yeah, why are we talking about Twilight right now? I would prefer to get back on track. Twilight is, I'm sorry, but it's not worth our time to discuss it in the Black Widow review. Twilight could have been pretty decent in some ways, so I don't know if the lines are so damn awful. Out of everything, that is absolutely not the reason I think those movies were bad. But, oh, I totally forgot about this scene, actually. The scene where Melina starts, like, choking the pig, that was the one moment where I feel like we got a teeny tiny little glimpse into Iron Maiden as a character. Because, like I said, she's fucking ruthless in the comic books. And this was one moment where I was like, damn, she's cold as hell. I really did not want to see the pig die, and I thought the pig died for a second. I was getting very upset. So this was a decent moment. I still don't like the mind control, but decent moment. Yeah, still never seen True Blood. I don't know. If they set up Melina to be a villain after this, I don't think that's gonna really work out for me very well either. Natasha dying could be her villain moment. I don't know. I don't see that, man. I'm doing good, E-Rock baby, and yes, I am getting lifted. Thank you. Oh, I saw Grace mention this too, and I noticed it as well. Who's giving everyone braids in this movie? Like there's such intricate, intense braid work for these characters in this movie. And on one hand, I'm like, it looks good, but on the other hand, I'm like, why are you wasting your time doing that? Like, it would be much more practical if you either just tied your hair back in a ponytail, do a regular like French braid down your back, but instead they're like, no, the hair is wild. There's just like braids sticking out of fucking everywhere. Again, I thought it looked good, but who's doing their hair? It's really a huge letdown for me. It wasn't a huge letdown for me. I have read a lot of Black Widow comics, and the way they portray her in the MCU is pretty different, but not any worse in my opinion. I was honestly more of a fan of MCU Natasha than I was comic book Natasha. But that's just me. However, I think Yelena poses a great opportunity to showcase what, you know, the comic book Natasha was. And I think that's what they're going to do. Have you seen Call Me By Your Name? Yeah, we've... that's off the discussion list now. And I will definitely not be reacting to that. Oh. We're not discussing the cannibals again, guys. We're not. It's not being brought up again. Braids are part of the widow training in the montage. Is it actually? Because they're actually a shot of them braiding each other's hair. Their hair is gonna fall out with all those braids. Like, just do it into a ponytail. Even that's not good for your hairline, but it's better than all these braids. Almost all her screen time is just her furthering the arcs of other characters more than her own, and it's so disappointing seeing as though pretty much all those characters are men. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it's a good point. But again, we sort of have a second chance with Yelena. Fingers crossed. Is there a How Are You stream after the Black Widow review? No. I think it's better than the Shake and Go Party City wig in Iron Man 2. Was that a wig in Iron Man 2? I thought she just had like a lot of hair product in. I don't know. I almost feel like that was not a wig. I don't know why, but I get the feeling that was their actual hair. It probably wasn't. But if that's true, that means she's never showed off her own hair in any Marvel movie. She's always worn a wig. That kind of sucks, actually. Never mind. An end credit scene. Get a compilation of you hating Call Me By Your Name. That's the unfortunate thing. I like that movie, but I don't feel like I could enjoy it anymore. Hey, Sir Magnus. It has been a while. It's good to see you. What do you mean they usually just wear a wig? Chris Evans didn't wear a wig. He dyed his hair. It's kind of like fucking with me now, thinking about the fact that she's never shown her actual hair in the MCU. Doing more Strange Comics. I look, he used to think she can't fight. She just used to flex her gymnastics. That's, I feel like that's valid criticism. And yeah, she had some moments here where she fucked some people up. Is it Sir Magnus? I can't help it, okay? I can't help it. But she should just be a great hero off the bat. To be fair, she doesn't have superpowers. So I see why the executives and decision makers were like, let's not make a big deal out of her. People probably aren't gonna like super get into that character, or if we do make a movie, how insane can we even make it, because she's just a human, whatever, blah blah blah. But I see what you're saying. The wigs are hit and miss. Yeah, there's some wigs that looked really good, and there's some that just did not. The wig in Captain America Winter Soldier, oh my god, I hated that wig. That looked really bad. Looked very bad. Actually, as a fan of the show Alias, having curly hair myself, I would be able to straighten my hair with a blow dryer, but could completely change how I look by wetting my hair. Well, yeah. Black Widow, I guess, is kind of like Batman. I mean, same, no powers, uses a lot of gadgets kind of thing, and is bordering on anti-hero, but is not, because, they're good people. Actually, if you think about it, Black Widow's like a worse person than Batman, because she is okay with killing people and has killed people, and Batman refuses to kill people. Interesting when you think about it. Best wig was in Infinity War. That was a good one. I'm trying to think what I thought was the best one. Probably unpopular opinion, but I think the best one was Endgame. I actually really liked that look. And I know a lot of people that did not. For real. Yeah, I feel you, Justin. I'm going to have to end this stream here pretty soon, too, because I should be getting to bed before too long as well. She's surprisingly durable. If you're talking about how Black Widow didn't die in this movie during at least, like, 4 instances where she absolutely should have, yeah. Because, goddamn, just the first moment in the movie when Taskmaster, like, flips her car down the bridge, that she should have been so dead. When she got kicked by him, or her, sorry, that still confuses me. It shouldn't have been Taskmaster. When Taskmaster kicks her like into the car and then off the bridge, just how hard she was like thrown into that car, like, should be dead. When they flip the car later in Budapest, this should be dead. When she got hit with a bunch of debris in Drake and the Red Room, and then falls down to the room below, that should have killed her. There's a lot of those particular moments. Batman just beats up poor people. I'm all for Batman slander. I like Batman. Be nice. Listen, if I had a nemesis that makes it his life work to murder every time he escapes, the next we meet, I'm thrown off. I mean, yeah, there's definitely a lot of Batman storylines where I get a little frustrated. I'm like, bro, if you just kill them, like, we could just solve this problem. They're never going to get any better, Batman. Just kill them. Now, work is this whole not fun story, so another time. You've been here for a while. Relax. And all this smoke for your friends and plans to take them down, but can't kill the guy that killed your parents. That's a good point. Good night, Justin. I've read The Long Halloween. Thank you, David. I very much appreciate it. And good night. and all is starting to go well. I hope all is going well for you too. Thank you, Simdown. All right. I'm going to wrap it up here. It was good talking to everyone again. And like I said, I enjoyed Black Widow. I thought it was not great, not bad. About a 6 out of 10, but a 7 out of 10 because I did enjoy it. I had fun. Parts that were cool, parts that were not so cool. You know, it was a mixed bag. Overall, a bit of a disappointment, but still, it's something. And it will tide me over until Shang-Chi, which is actually not very far away anymore, actually. I think it's like a month and a half away. So I'm curious to see how that goes. And yeah, I do really need to play Zelda on a stream. Somehow try to figure that out, but yes. Good night, everybody. Thank you all for joining me. And that is about it.